I've done this lesson before. I can't remember when, a long time ago, but it's just so important that I thought I would give it another go, approach it from a different angle. This lesson is the tritone or the tritone substitution. There's no more interesting substitution in my mind than the tritone substitution because of where it leads. It's just crazy. So first of all, you will find a tritone in any major scale. So the tritone is between the F and the B. And you can see if I for instance played a G7 chord, there's my tritone. And that G7 wants to return to its one chord. So the question is, how important is the tritone to the 5 chord, right? The 5 chord, C, D, E, F, G. It's actually more than important. It's fundamental to the sound of the 5 chord. And the reason for that is, here's the F and the B again. The B leads to the tonal center, and the F falls to the 3. And those two simple movements lead to the root and the 3 of the 1 chord. This is really ubiquitous in every form of music in the Western world. It is dominant harmony, right? 5 to 1. Now we call this a tritone, as I've got here. We call it a tritone because there are 3 tones between the F and the B. F to G, G to A to B. That gives us 3 tones. And there's my tritone. Okay. Now, so we talked about the G7 resolving to the C major, or the 5 chord resolving to the 1, and the tritone is the most important, are the most important notes in the G7 or the 5 chord in any key, right? Okay. The same, as I said, in any key. Now, let's just take a look at something else here. The G7 chord, like I just played here, shares the same tritone as a D flat 7 chord, right? So here we have a D minor 7 to a G7 to a C major 7. So D minor 7 to G7 to C. Okay. Now the G7, the chord has the notes G, B, and D and F in the chord. The tritone is between, as we discovered, between B and F. The D flat 7 chord has the B note, right, in it. Here we go here, and the B note would be called a C flat, but it's enharmonic with the B. Has a B note in it, and it has an F note in it. So in other words, the D flat 7 chord shares the same tritone as the G7 chord. And because we've discovered that the tritone is the most important, are the most important notes in a dominant 7 chord or a 5 chord, the same would hold true for this D flat 7 that shares the same tritone with the G7. So the question is, can we use the D flat 7 in place of the G7? Can we substitute a D flat 7 for a G7? Here's a 2 chord, 2 of 5, 2 of 1. Here's a 2 chord, 2 of 1. Again, D flat 7. So the answer is yes, and the reason being that they share the same tritone, and that tritone is just a force of nature. I mean, it's very strong, and it is coherent, creates a coherency between these two chords, even though the movement of the bass is quite different. So in a G7, if we go from a 2, 2 of 5 to a 1, our bass note is bass line. But if we go from a 2 to a 5 to a 1 in the key of C using the D flat with the common tritone, we have this bass line. So it creates a chromatic bass line, which is a little bit more interesting than that bass line. So this simple tritone substitution creates a chromatic bass line. Now the same thing, of course, would apply to every key. I've written some key examples down here on the bottom. A minor, so we have the 2, substitution, 1 in the key of G. Then let's do the key of B. Oh, that's supposed to say B flat major. And so here we have C minor, right? It's a really nice movement as opposed to we have nice chromatic bass line. D major, and finally E flat. Same. And all of that logic comes out of the idea of the tritone being shared between those two chords, right? And which yields this idea of a tritone substitution. Now, another cool thing that happens, and I just wrote it out here, if we take the notes of a G chord, G, B, D, and F, and we take the notes of a D flat 7 chord, it's tritone substitution, we have the notes D flat, F, A flat, and C flat, or enharmonically, the B. If we put them together in composite, we end up with this in playing in G, we end up with a flat 9, a 3, a flat 5, a regular 5, and a flat 7. So here are those that listen for these notes. Right, there's my... So I'm not going to get into altered scales, but you see how that tritone begins to tie things together. One thing that I was going to mention that I forgot earlier on is the tritone is an equal division of the octave. That means that it is in the middle of an octave. So if we take yeah, right. Tritone here we have, I'll sort of try to demonstrate here. Here's B and F, and F and B. See, so that's just in the middle of the octave from B to B, right? And if I invert it, so a tritone is an equal division of the octave. That equal division of the octave gives us a dominant sound. It could be that simple. It gives us a dominant sound that wants to lead back to the tonic. Now, we'll get into this deeper as we move along. I'm going to shoot next some of the ramifications of this idea with diminished chords and 7 flat 9s and how they duplicate themselves up and down the fretboard. Okay, this is for all of you who want to dig a little deeper into how harmony works. I would not necessarily call this jazz harmony. I studied classical harmony for a little while. It was all the same stuff. It's all the same stuff. It's just the elements that we have to use for making music, and I think it's important to understand those. Okay, thanks for stopping by again, and I will see if I can link this in the description and leave a comment. You know, comments are really helpful for me because they know that some people are listening and care. And I like to know if I'm impacting your journey of study and what you would like to know. And I do answer questions. Okay, good. Thanks a lot. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you again real soon.